Okay, so this talk is going to last about 15 minutes. And my name is Sofia Kavlin. I am Bolivian Canadian. I grew up in Bolivia. And so I think I'm just going to go straight to it. I studied anthropology and international development is my background. And so I think it's always been quite a bit of a struggle for me between a very intense pull of my Western upbringing that was a bit in contradiction or in contrast with my parents' worldviews. My father is a shaman. My mother is a yoga teacher and therapist. Eh, so I chose to call this talk The Practicing Human. And that's because I think in my own life, it has felt a bit, quite often, like a struggle to simply let myself be. When in so many ways, and especially living in the West, because I'm living in New York right now, it has felt like a very big just contradiction that weighs quite a bit in terms of feeling the pressure of the career, of grind culture, to keep going faster and to accelerate my own experience and to keep up with a standard that honestly I have no idea what that success even looks like or feels like. And the faster we seem to go, the further in the distance it seems to get. So the practicing human means to me ways to dwell in my own existence, in my own peace, in just the satisfaction of being and appreciating just very simple little pleasures in life. So as of last year, I started doing somatic practices in New York City, a somatic apprenticeship as part of my studies in how the urban environment and the urban narratives shape the way we move in space. And somatic approaches to experiencing life, it basically consists of dropping into our senses. And you're invited to just take one deep breath with me at the moment, because if I were to share my own somatic experience with you right now, I can notice that my heart is beating very fast. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I see these people viewing who I cannot interact with, at the moment at least. I can feel my voice quivering because I am a little nervous. And I can also feel how when I take a deep breath, those symptoms decrease. I'm in Paris with some friends at the moment, and those are little things that give me joy. And finding joy is very much an embodied experience. And once we step away from the mental chatter and just feel into simple pleasures, like dwelling in sunlight, and the fact that I am a guest in this beautiful house, and observing the architecture in this beautiful city, and being able to take it slow and to walk slowly is something that in my body has felt quite good, as opposed to the constant acceleration that I feel very often in New York. So somatic practices are very good to change narratives. And what I write, and some of you may be familiar with my writing, I try to make it come from an embodied experience. So my body is and will always be the sole mediator of my human experience. And I try to remember that. Oftentimes I forget that, which is when depression might kick in, when I let my mind take over. But if I stay with my body, and I become able to hold what I also like to call space for observational eros. And poetry is observational eros. And poetry is a means of taking everything that my body interprets and communicating it in a way that is not limited by this Western framework that can seem sometimes quite oppressive. And even though English is the language of the oppressor, I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone by saying that, but it for a lot of us, I think that is the reality. So to be able to say something that transcends limited cultural views through poetry and to occupy the spaces between where change can occur feels extremely valid to me. So I think what's important about poetry is permission to tap into pleasure. And it's those little permissions that we oftentimes don't give us that allow shifts in our perceptions to occur. Pleasure, I think, is an extremely important tool that has become very taboo even to talk about it. And it seems like there is no room to talk about pleasure in academic settings. But I think it's fundamental to what poetry is to be able to identify with it and to be able to transmute even the most painful experiences into something beautiful. And it's like an alchemical experience is what poetry is, at least to me. And it doesn't always fulfill the role of poetry, of therapy, but there is something, I think, fundamentally therapeutic about being able to write poetry. And sometimes for me, it takes form of just a very short form, just poem, or oftentimes a longer prose that invites more reflection. And I think it's oftentimes an exploration of where I am in my life and to be able to change my own perspective of my own life situation when it all can sometimes feel dire or helpless. I think poetry is it's my most sublime side, I would say. And being very, very human and trying very, very hard. Poetry is my practice of being as human as I can be, as often as I can be it. And it's, I think, also a very good reminder that I think as mundane and as gory as our daily lives can be at times, there's always more. And observational eros is the art of unfolding reality and opening it like just like a flower, to be able to hold space for something that is more and that is right just by virtue of its existence. Which takes me to the importance of building community, which I think I have found here in Medium, is an audience that is able to engage with that poetry, who does not know my face, and perhaps this is the first time that some of you are seeing my face, and who invite and have space for those deep questionings, who do not care what I look like, in an environment that is very social media oriented. It is kind of a contradiction that this talk is called The Practicing Human. It is actually an online situation, so I will acknowledge that. And Medium is also an online tool, which I think can seem contradictory to the point of this talk, which is tools to engage with our real experience and how poetry fits into that. But I think having a community, such as I think Scribe, which is where I publish my own poetry, is fundamental to give myself permission to even ask those difficult questions that I couldn't ask otherwise and that other people wouldn't perhaps engage with, which is how can I show up better for this thing called life? Poetry is about that question. And what does it fundamentally mean to be human? And those are very deep questions that I think we oftentimes need to contemplate in our own privacy. There's something still private about this kind of community that we're building of poets and of publishers who are just online. And so, yeah, just having these people to both witness your ponderings and whose ponderings you can witness is what I have found here in Medium and in Scribe, and it is why I think I've been able to cultivate this side of my identity even more. So, and also just to extend a big thank you to Thomas, who is our editor and curator at Scribe, who does a very fundamental and delicate art, which is maintenance. And it takes diligence and showing up routinely to maintain a space for a community, such as he has done. And just to acknowledge that. So there's a few things that I think, as we come close to ending the time that I have allocated to this talk, that I think I'd like to draw attention to. One, which is how tricky it is to dialogue with our relationship with technology when, yes, we want to come back to our bodies. Yes, we want to be practicing humans and more anchored in this space and in this time with less distractions, while acknowledging how important it is to have these technologies that allow us to build community in ways that otherwise wouldn't be possible. To me, being a human in the 21st century means being better at managing my relationship and how much of myself I want to share and expose, and always trying a little more to reclaim my right to privacy and my right to attention and my right to focus, which seems so incredibly threatened by all of these tools that are claiming my attention constantly, including my iPhone, including this laptop in front of me. So more than preaching about something, this talk is about sharing my own struggles, as I think I'm being human for the first time. I think. And so we're trying our best here. And hopefully I'm not the only one who's struggling with these questions of how can I show up for my present experience better and more often and give myself more quality, while at the same time being open to how these things are changing in the world. So that really is the gist of it, I would say. Being human is a practice, which is why I like to play with words, because I think it invites more possibilities to what being human can be. So for me, I think of a list of verbs that should exist in the English language but don't, including humaning, which tells you that being human is not a stagnant thing, it is a process, and it will inevitably change. And thoughting versus thinking, which means the few moments when we truly have original thoughts instead of compulsive mental masturbation. So that's why I love poetry, and that's why I believe in its value as a tool to observe our experiences and just to be a little kinder to ourselves as well. So yeah, I'm hitting my 15-minute mark. So now's the time which is open to Q&As. I see some of you are waiting on the moderation panel, so we'll see what that's about. And please, if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts that have emerged through what I've said, please share them. And I'll take the rest of this time to respond to what you all are thinking.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, ouch. Oh, sorry for the sound. It's my table.
Oh, it's fine. That's fine.
This is Chloe. I'm from Hong Kong. Hi, Sophia. Are you from the US?
No, I was born in Canada. I raised in Bolivia.
Oh, I love your accent.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, like, just now you share a lot about self-improvement, right? And I like and how to cultivate self-love. Actually, I think reading is also like very important to cultivate self-love because you can learn a lot of knowledge. Like for example, like as a personal experience, I'm experiencing bipolar disorder, and I read a lot of psychology books and philosophical books that can help me to uh, that changed my mindset understand myself better. Yeah, so I think that it's my sharing right now.
Thank you. And also thank you for being vulnerable and sharing about your condition on this forum. And I think that's what's important about holding these spaces, is that we are here to show up for each other, and we never really know who's out there reading our things. And to know that that it that it is a tool for other people, I think is incredibly valuable. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'm also writing on Medium about my condition and about like what, like for example, I watch a lot of news, not a lot of news, but I watch a lot of media, like movies and TV shows, and I try to like associate with my mental condition in my life experience. So it like so when I learn like when I watch a movie, I try to like think about what I've learned from that movie.
Yeah,
So that's is like so whenever I feel like in every life, I mean like in every situation, I'm actually learning something. So and I think it's very like important to continuous learning first to cultivate self-love.
absolutely. We're all learning and unlearning.
Yeah, I think that's it for my sharing.
Thank you so
So
much
I
for sharing that. Yeah. And it was lovely to meet you and see your face.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
thank you.
Goodbye for
Bye.
now. But I will continue listening. I will
Yeah,
say goodbye to the webcam. Thank
cool.
you.
Sounds good. You're welcome. Thank you. So do we have more questions, or it would be nice to see another face if someone wants to join the moderation panel? Well, I'm reading some of the comments now, so maybe we can. As an applied anthropological researcher, all processes are backwards in subtle, fundamental ways, which brought me to the question about continued use of the net. Is it possible that the internet, exactly the opposite of where we are present within our lives? Indicators say to it. So I don't know if A. Pascal is with us and you'd like to explain your question, perhaps? Or if not, then we'll continue down. Do you think we need to stop segmenting people, for example, poets and philosophers, while their work is in a different medium? Aren't they fulfilling similar pursuits? I think segmentation is a very big problem that's affecting us all. I think we can kind of see the effects of that in politics, especially in the United States. Uh, and I recently read a book called Where Good Ideas Come From by Stephen Johnson that says that many good ideas come from the exchange between different disciplines. And he gives the example of the Beagle ship where Darwin set off to sail, and that's where the theory of evolution was born, but it was out of conversation with zoologists and botanists and astronomers and all these people that were looking into different ways of seeing the world. And so I do think to a certain degree we could stop segmenting people. I think having ways to reach out and find the things that resonate with us the most are also useful. But to facilitate that kind of exchange, I think is always an incredible way to create even more things and to allow for a reinvention of what these different and separate areas could become. And so thank you for that question, Yasmin. And then, okay, so gonna give it a shot with this one as well. Is it possible that the internet is exactly the opposite of when we are present within our lives? I do think the internet has been a tool that has been given to us without us fully understanding the consequences of that dependency, which is why when I speak about my iPhone, I speak about an addiction. And when I speak about my use of the internet, I speak of it in the terms of an addiction as well, because I think when we can name something as being a problem, then we can start finding solutions for it. I'm very hard on myself for spending too much time, in my opinion, online, and for noticing how my ability to focus for longer periods of time is affected. And I think the tools that we are given that we lack oversight for, or the ability to self-regulate, can be very tricky to handle. Which is why I think it's so important to have these communities where we can say, hey, I'm having this issue. How do you feel about it? Is there someone out there that is sharing this plight? And as I said before, the whole point of this talk is to say, I'm here and I'm trying, and there are these things that are making it more difficult for me to show up in my daily lives. I don't think the internet is exactly the opposite of being present within our lives. I think it can be a tool. It is a tool to communicate. The problem is when it becomes more than that. And sometimes it feels like we're talking at the internet instead of talking with a community within the internet. And I think that's a problem. As in, posting on social media is not very much of a conversation. It's just a source of external validation and getting those little dopamine releases when people engage with our content. And that's a very tricky thing to get hooked on. So I do believe in limiting our use of technology. Do I have any of the answers? No. I have the questions, and I'd like to see if there are other people that that would like to be a part of the conversation.
Hi, I'm back. I would love to answer your question because I was experiencing bipolar, right? So I always thought that I might when I experienced bipolar, then I would have some kind of ADHD situation, and I would felt like I'm procrastinating, and I'm not. I think everyone. So I think I'm being too hard on myself with procrastinations. Like I would think, okay, if I'm not sleeping, or like I'm sorry, if I'm sleeping, then I'm procrastinating. If I am like, if I'm not writing, then I'm procrastinating. So it's like I think everyone but then the thing is, like, I talked to my therapist, and what she said is procrastinating actually doesn't really, like, quote unquote exist, because, like, for example, like you're having a hard day, so you look to your phone and you want to get some dopamine. That is exactly okay. And for some people, they're probably addicted to internet, like some Japanese people. Like, no offense, but a lot of it started by the Japanese. But like, on the good, maybe they're addicted to their internet identity, but at the same time, they are also learning a way much more knowledge from the internet than us, the normal people. That so, and then they're going through forums, they're talking to people, they're actually having this social identity on their own, even though they're not face to face cultivating, like having this face to face conversation. And that, yeah, and after COVID, I think people value more face-to-face conversation, even though we have more technology. So it's like having more technology can be a good thing if you are having a positive mindset. And as a writer or or painter or like anyone who's doing creative work, I think I've read a post on Medium. It actually mentioned of how like you want actually because AIs, as for AIs, right, they're not perfect. They like you still have to like if you use Grammarly, you still have to check the grammar. If you use like AIs too frequently, they will post same or similar content, or it becomes non-original, and people will start to expect more original work. Like when, for example, if one thing is mass produced by a factory, then nobody will actually care about that thing. But if it's special and it's produced by that factory as well, people will start to notice it, and it will goes back to that trend where, okay, we can use this technology, but we can upgrade the product. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hmm. You
yeah. Please
continue.
continue.
Well, the as I said before, I think the internet is just it's a double-edged sword. I think it has a lot of benefits in terms of we have never had more access to information, as you mentioned before, to enrich our knowledge in our lives. But at the same time, I think it's that constant barrage of information that makes it so hard for us to be able to withhold and to say when. I think it's more about the quality of that information than it is perhaps the quantity. It's both. It is actually both. Mm, but to be able to take a step back, and this is why I think curation is so important, which is why I really believe in what Medium is doing with having a human curated content,
Mm-hmm.
because I just don't know if I want to rely solely on algorithms that have an interpretation of what I want to be seeing. I want to, I think it's very important to curate our environments in the internet specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And and to be able to some degree, and I say personally, not as a societal thing, because that can have a lot of problems in itself, but to be able to curate our own content and how we consume content, I think is so essential, because I don't want to be seen only as as a customer and a consumer, um, but as a learning, practicing human, which is
Mm-hmm.
difficult to find that kind of space in the internet where we get to engage with people and content on that level. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's why there's actually editor programs that if you want to join, and I'm like one of the editors on Medium. Like, yeah, not to promote it, but anyways, a disclaimer, not to promote it. Anyways, that's why there have been a lot of editors and from and then we and actually encourage AI generated stories, like humans content with AI's generation stories. And we can like editors can block people. They can they can change destroy, they can edit people's content to make it more useful. Yeah.
Okay,
So
wait, so
but then
you're an editor within Medium's curation
yeah,
team.
I'm yeah,
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
the newbie. I'm the newbie.
Oh, that's so cool. Congratulations, by the way. I think it's such an exciting
Yeah,
thing to be a part of.
but then the truth is, if you want to join it, you can just apply it.
Cool. That's
Yeah, I
really
mean,
cool.
because I love writing, and sometimes I felt like, okay, I don't want to write so much. I want to maybe I want to read others people work, and I am I'm a more of a creative writer, so I want to read about business and about chat GPT's work. So I just click that as an editing part. So when I read their work, I can also edit their work. So which I'm like learning from them. And
Yes.
for my creative work, I become a writer, so other people will edit my work.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
that's, yeah. So
Well,
it's
I
like
think
medium.
I'm
Sorry,
past
please continue.
I'm past my time limit because it
Uh-huh.
was only 30 minutes. But I think this is just to say, just to start wrapping it up. Thank you so much for being engaged, Chloe. It was so wonderful to have someone to speak to, actually. And I hope we'll stay connected after this as well. And
Yeah,
to everyone
just
who, yeah, what were you saying?
can you send me your like a Medium account, or can I just search Sofia Isabel Kavlin on Medium? I'll
Definitely.
just follow you.
Yes. And for everyone else who's joined and who's still watching, thank you so much for your attention, for your questions. It's really been a pleasure, and I hope you've all gotten something from this talk. And I look forward to doing this again. It's really been a lot of fun. All right, so I'm
Just
gonna
find.
wrap this up. Yeah. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Bye.